And we meet again. It's another live stream. It's another Monday. Been back consistent. Is it at the time I'm supposed to be at? No. Was it at the time I was supposed to be at last week? No. You still here? Yes, you are. So that's all that matters, right? And unless you start paying me regularly, you need to shut up. Because y'all be complaining about nothing that you ain't can't do nothing about. And the biggest complainers, especially on YouTube, be having fake profiles. But I'm gonna go back and forth with you every time because it's bringing my engagement up and pushing the video. So y'all stupid for going back and forth. So yeah. But anyway, we got a few things we got to talk about today. I have a guest today, somebody who I've come in contact with recently, but somebody who I actually would put on the podcast as well at some point in the near future. And that probably will happen. Hint, hint, wink, wink in a few weeks. So let's go ahead and get this started because he has a lot to say and I think he has great insights. So let me go ahead and introduce him. My guy, what's going on?
Family, what up? What up? What up?
All right, boom. So the people can see you on YouTube, but for my audio people, because this will go on audio platforms, can you tell the people what's your name, where you from, and where you live now?
So my name is Nas, born in Daytona, Florida, from like just Pennsylvania, Philly, New Jersey area, Rome, and I'm staying in Jersey as of right now.
Okay, bet.
Yes,
And
Lord.
tell the people it is what you do.
So I'm the founder of the nonprofit Change the Narrative, and I'm the founder of the for-profit Nas Networks. So what I do is on the nonprofit side, I mentor, guide, and lead the youth on walking with purpose, living with purpose, and understanding intention. And then on the for-profit, I travel, I do speaking engagements, and I throw networking events built around helping the community understand the importance of social capital, knowing how to network, knowing how to estimate, and knowing how to leverage value and build relations and build social capital within our communities, which we lack.
We definitely do. So it's good stuff to know. So before we get into the two topics today, I always do a recap of my most recent episode. So first of all, this episode was basically it was I'm 30 now what? And it featured me and my homeboy who just turned 30, and then I turned 31 literally in like 2 weeks. And we just kind of discussed throughout the episode what it's like being 30, things that we learn, things that we plan to use, what happened to us. Do we see life differently? Discussing just different quotes and unpacking like the phrase 30 is the new 20 and all this good stuff. Now, before I get any further, how old are you? Hello? Did it freeze? You hear me? Let me see something. And this is what happens when you're live. Okay, you hear me? I'm not editing that out, y'all, because this is what happens when you go live. So I want y'all to get the full, authentic, real thing. So while he's getting that together, basically, the episode we know talked about what it's like being 30 and some tips and things. You there? Let me see. Just some tips and things about being 30 and what to expect at 30, that it isn't the end of the world. And the main thing was just about your life doesn't end at 30. It actually, in some cases, just begins. Are you back? Can you hear me now? You there? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what was wrong with the connection. I can hear you now though.
Okay, bet. So basically, my last question before I ended up was I asked how old you was.
So I'm 22.
Okay. 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 So you got a long time before 30.
Yeah,
That's okay because I actually interviewed somebody today
a
for an
little bit,
episode.
a
He's
couple
not gonna.
years.
Yeah. I actually interviewed somebody today on the podcast. He actually was 19. So, but the point of the episode was just talking about your life not ending at 30. Because a lot of times people feel as though you get to 30 and then it's like you got to have everything figured out. And it's people who was in relationships when they was 18, 19, and they get to 30 and they ain't in that relationship no more. You know what I mean? How tragic that could be. Or people who find a purpose around their 30s, or who, you know, you meet the love of your life in your 30s. Like I said in the episode, you could get married at 31, meet the love of your life at 31, and get married at 33, where some people think they need to have it all together by 30. So although you're 22, so this is actually good. Do you feel pressured to have your life together by 25, 30? You know, it's glitching bad today. That's okay. So while we wait on him, I'm gonna ask y'all. Anybody that's younger than 30, you might be 29, you might be 28, you might be 26, you might be 22 like him. Do you feel pressured to have your life together now? That's a question to ask. And that's something to wonder about, you know, and to keep in mind, because it's just like everybody's life is different. Everybody sees life differently. Everybody has a different plan. Everybody's not supposed to do the same thing. So I think that that's something to keep in mind. And what else I want to say about that? Yeah, I think we're gonna end it there. Um, we're gonna end it there. Is there anything else I want to talk about the episode? Also, Rashad, like I said, Rashad, I had been knowing him. You know, he was on the podcast in season 6. He actually was a season opener of the Soft rebrand. I said that in the episode as well. And then for him to come back, you know, it was a full circle moment. But like I said, with him, he won't be the last person y'all see that you've seen before. So keep that in mind as well. Keep that in mind as well. You back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You back? Yeah. You can hear me now?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with my connection.
It's cool. I know how to play it. So it's good. You good. Now, before we move on to the next topic, I do have to ask, because you're 22, do you feel pressure to have your life together by 25, 30? Like, do you have
Yes,
to be the way you thinking?
absolutely.
Okay. So,
Absolutely.
okay. Now, like I said, you got plenty of time. And like I said, when I was 22, my life was totally different than what I expected. That's a good
Mhm.
thing, because sometimes, you know, we plan something, but God has other things in mind. So it's good that you are that young, because you can be able to see, like, if whatever happens doesn't go exactly how you thought it was, just know that it's still gonna work out like it's supposed to. And you were much more ahead than much 22-year-olds than I've seen, because I for sure thought we was around the same age. And not because you look old, because you know black don't crack, just because of
Mhm.
how you carry yourself. So keep doing what you're doing, because it's working.
Much love. Appreciate that for real.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, y'all, we're gonna move on from the episode. Like I said, if you hadn't checked out I'm 30 Now What, check it out. It's on YouTube, obviously, and on all streaming platforms, and the clip's still rolling. So yeah. So we about to jump into the first topic for the day. So the first topic for the day I want to talk about somebody we ain't talked about on here in a minute, but watch what I do with this, y'all. So we're gonna go to the shade room. No, this ball alert, just to talk about this. So Tyler Perry is apparently sued over Sheeta People. Activist says Netflix show copied her movement. So basically, this is from a blog, says that he's facing legal heat over his newest series. Somebody filed a lawsuit claiming the show violates the intellectual property of her nonprofit by the same name, who founded the Sheeta People organization. In 2018, amplified the political voice of Black and other women of color, suing him. The series echoes many of the same themes regarding Black women's experience in politics. He did file a trademark. I'm skimming through it, y'all. Y'all can read it because I got a lot to say. The request was denied due to the likelihood of confusion of Allison's brand. And she is coming directly on the show, but shared an Instagram reel stating the world is full of people who wish they had good ideas. So put your paperwork in place and prepare to protect the soul of what you built. All right, I got a lot to say about that. So let's get into the first topic, or the first segment for today, which is, what does this have to do with mental health? So when we're talking about what does this have to do with mental health, and we talking about this whole Tyler Perry thing, we know this is the study of how we act, think, and feel. And am I going to sit here and say I believe he just stole this basis? I'm going to steal your stuff and get away with it. Tyler Perry is much smarter than that. I don't think he was intentionally just try to steal nobody's stuff. Are there maybe a lot of comparisons? Maybe so. I'm not here to say her experience is invalid, and that's not what I'm doing. But what I'm doing is when it comes to mental health, and I want to really speak to creators out here, because like I said, I'm a flipper than what people would have expected. But when you come up with an idea, we always had Google. We got ChatGPT. Research and see if this is something that's already existing. Because if so, there's ways you can alter it. Now, there's something I've been working on for the last few years that has not obviously seen the light of day yet. But when I first got the idea to do it, I Googled and see, is there anything like this? And so when I did see that it was something kind of similar, I said, okay, bet. Well, I know what not to do. So that way, nobody could be like, you stole my idea. With that being said, as a creator yourself, have you ever created something that once you already came up with it, you realized, dang, this already kind of exists?
I could, yeah, plenty of times. And it's, yeah, I definitely could say, like, it's not even like what exactly it is that I do, but the realm that I am, like, whatever, it's like motivational speaking, you know what I'm saying? Like the way I carry it through speaking, you know what I'm saying? It already exists. It's already a thing. To me, I just feel like it's the perspective. It's like, it's how you make that thing special to you. So your name and your brand attaches to it. So it doesn't matter who else does it. You are that. You are that brand. So, you know what I'm saying? When people think CTM change the narrative, they think me. They think Nas. You know what I'm saying? Even though the words change the narrative has been a thing, or the movement, oh, we're changing the narrative, been a thing. But when you think of change the narrative, positivity, people think, yeah, that's Nas. You know what I'm saying? Because of what I do for it, the purpose that I have behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because he is trying to fight it. Out of all the shows he created, I don't want to, y'all can quote me if I'm wrong. I don't think he's ever experienced somebody tried to say he stole their stories. So, and not saying he ain't been stealing stories. I'm not saying that he has. I don't believe that, but I'm just saying that if there's anything, it's the first time it's a quote unquote got caught. I don't believe he stole this lady's story on purpose. It's just a lot of similarities, but it's just the point of that I'm making to the people, like, y'all, if you come up with something, see if it already exists. One thing I can say about me, and this is not to be braggadocious, like and I know it's God given, but I've always been ahead of my time. When I started my podcast in 2018, podcasts had exist. They're nothing like they are now. It wasn't until 2020 when the disease hit, and then everybody started one, and now everybody and their mama got one. And even with the type of podcast that I have, where it's kind of like, personal growth for young millennial men who struggle with making healthy decisions. And it was before that was a movement. It was only then pop culture kind of stuff. Now we see a lot of those podcasts that are trying to help, women too, of course, but especially geared to helping men and helping us make, journey in this thing called manhood. So I think that it's something interesting to see, because everybody's, I guess you could say, manhood looks different, but there's still an overall goal and the way we still are required to move about it biblically. All right, now let's go to the next segment, which is WWID. What would I do in this situation? If it was me and I was him at this point, I would probably reach out to that lady, me maybe, and just to see like why she feels that way, or what is the comparison, and to see like if this is just a money thing, or just to see what she on. Because sometimes you could reach out to somebody on some like cool, trying to have a conversation, they not trying to hear it. But I think that he should at least try to make it right. And if he did steal this lady show or idea, maybe bring her on. I don't know. What would you do in this situation if you were him? Did it freeze again? I think it froze again. Yeah, I think it froze again. Hold on, let me kick him to the bottom and see and bring him back on. Can you hear me now? Maybe not. Well, I think that in this situation, I think it's best to always research, always see what's out there that's like you. Because technically nothing is new under the sun, but there's new ways to go about it. Okay? There's new ways to go about it. Keep that in mind. WWJD, what would Jesus do in this situation? So I believe that if they was in this situation, and honestly, the most ethically and morally correct thing to do, I think it would be best to, how do I want to say that? I'm gonna let you start it off since you just got back on. So the next segment I asked was WWJD, which is the most what would Jesus do? And this is the most ethically and morally correct thing to do in this situation. So what do you think would be the ethically and morally correct thing to do in this situation if you was Tyler Perry and
Um,
it was you?
I would say definitely reach out and communicate. Get to the root, find the intent. God sees all intentions, and God understands intent.
Yeah,
So definitely just try to understand the intention and reach out and communicate to understand it and visually understand and see where they're coming from intentionally. Go from
yeah.
there, type of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Because in this case, it's a situation I always try to put myself in people's shoes because we as a people are quick to, and I intentionally get these conversations from these type of websites because we are people, we are quick to criticize and shame people for stuff that they be doing. And if
Hmm.
it was us, we would want grace. So I think that again, I have to give both sides of the ball. If you stole the lady show, own it up and stole her idea. But like I said, if it was me and it was somebody who it was based on somebody, I would at least in interviews been, he got the bread, he could give us some money, and then also highlight like this was inspired by this. Because then if you would have been
Hmm.
giving her some bread, she wouldn't have cared. But see,
Exactly.
because you just kind of in her mind took her stuff, and is it possible to have come up with an idea that looked like somebody else's? Yes, this actually happened to me
Absolutely.
before. I can't remember the exact scenario, and they was trying to argue that I stole it. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And like they was really on like he stole it. And I wasn't a podcast. Well, I lied. Let's do it. So when I first started my podcast in 2018, I had a friend, no longer friends with this lady, and I remember her. This is when because I'm big on keeping things private to this time,
Hmm.
and I remember I was actually 22. Yeah, I was 22. Crazy.
Hmm.
And I remember starting this podcast, and I had a friend at the time who was telling me, and again, I was keeping it to myself, but I had a friend and she was telling me about she wanted to start a podcast and all this stuff. And it was just kept giving confirmations about stuff. And that was another one of the confirmations. So when I finally started my podcast, and that's a whole story of how we fell out. You ain't got time for that. But it was behind the podcast. But I remember she tried to be like, you stole that idea from me. And I was like, no, I actually already had it. I just didn't tell you that. But in her mind, you lying. I'm like, all right. So in some cases, you
Hmm.
damned if you do, damned if you don't. But you just have to be
Yeah.
okay with people saying you lying. So if that's Tyler Perry's scenario, like me, then you just gotta let them have that. Because if you didn't steal it, there'll be ways to prove it. Right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
WSMD, what should men do in this situation? Now, it's kind of a slippery slope because unfortunately we live in a sassy man era. So whenever a man stands up to a woman in any way or says something that's assertive or stands up for himself, he's sassy. And I say this respectfully because I am in my villain era on this podcast. Most women who try to call men sassy grew up fatherless. So when they try to say what men should do, I just find it awful interesting because how would you know that if you didn't grow up with one? So that means to me, you made that up based on what you've seen on TV because you made up in your mind what a man should do.
Hmm.
So you can't say, well, my daddy would do this. Some of y'all them can, but you can't say, well, my daddy did this and my daddy did that. You don't know. You don't know. So in this situation, if Tyler Perry go back and forth with this lady, it's like, oh, he's sassy. If he I don't know. I don't know. What would you suggest? We already gave off the logic that, hey, if it's that lady stuff, give her credit. But in a situation where, let's do it like this, a man is being attacked, and we're gonna just say it
Hmm.
from something he didn't do by a
Hmm.
woman. How should he respond?
It's a great question. a man is being attacked for something he didn't do by a woman, how she respond?
In this world, currently.
Like you said, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, like, this is what it is. This is what it ain't. Simple. Period.
Yeah.
This is what it is. This is what it ain't. You know what I'm saying? And sticking to that, standing 10 toes behind that. You know what I'm saying? This is exactly what it is. This is exactly what it ain't. Now, anything you delusionally try to believe or paint outside of that's on you. You know what I'm saying? But just don't move off your pivot on this is what it is or this is what it ain't. I'm staying firm on that. You know what I'm saying? This is my pivot. You're not moving me off that. This is what it is, and this is exactly what it's not. Type time. That's how I will come.
And there's some woman right now probably saying that's a sassy response. I don't think it is, but I just know how they do.
They probably is. I'm probably about to get canceled.
They're gonna say he's so sassy, and I'll just be like, all right. So what he's supposed to sit now? See, you either this is the issue I have. It's either you're too sassy or you don't say nothing. He don't show no emotion. He nonchalant. So we can't win for doing nothing. So that's why when I learned you can't win for doing nothing, you might as well do what you want to do because you're gonna be because you're gonna be get an L either way. So
Exactly.
you might as well do what you want to do. But to end off, Tyler Perry, if you see this, I hope you ain't steal that lady stuff. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt until proven guilty because I would want that because there's been plenty of times people try to accuse me of stuff I didn't do and it looked bad. And when it came out that it was a lie, I went running like them people on Maury when they would find out they wasn't the father. I'd be like, I told y'all niggas I ain't do that. But then the same people, this is where they get you. The same people who was like, had you on a witch hunt and was nailing you to the cross, they're never lie with the apologies. They always quiet with the apologies, but they are loud with the accusations. So anybody dealing with accusations, keep that in mind because that's just what it is. All right. So for the last topic for the day, now I'm trying to avoid talking about this man only because he's a hot topic literally every day right now because of his trial. And we've talked about Diddy so many times on these live streams, but we're going to talk about it one more time, but again, from a different angle. So let me share my screen and we about to dissect this because now this comes from the Shade Room. And Suge Knight urges Diddy to testify and try in order to humanize himself of all people. So Suge Knight basically urged him to tell the truth. I guess to humanize himself during the proceeding. Feel like he does this, he could really walk. Puffy goes up there and says, hey, I did all the drugs. I wasn't in control of myself at the time. Or you can humanize his old self and jury might give him a shot. Knight, who's serving a 28-year sentence for a 2015 hit and run, warned that staying silent could hurt Combs' case. But if they keep him sitting down, it's like he's scared to face the music. He should just have his faith in God, put up his pants and go up there and tell the truth. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, transportation, prostitution, and all that stuff. All right, let's run back through it before we end off for the day. What does this have to do with mental health? So again, the study of how we act, think, and feel. Never thought I'd say this. I agree with Suge Knight. I agree with his logic of saying, look, the jig is up, which is actually a logic that I believe in real life. Because sometimes people be doing stuff, sneaky, underhanded stuff, and God's grace lasts only for so long. Because as we've seen, we're in a year of exposure. So when you're doing stuff you ain't supposed to be doing, it's gonna come out. And you always get a grace to do it. It's even biblically proven. You always get warned several times privately. Then God's gonna send somebody to warn you publicly, or hey, send somebody to warn you, like, hey, stop what you're doing. And because God is so good, it's always more than once on both sides. And then if you don't listen to that, that's when the exposure comes. So all this stuff Diddy was doing, even in the Bible, them people was doing them stuff for decades before judgment came. And they just had no conviction. So I agree with Suge Knight. He should go up there and just be like, look, y'all, like Dan Snyder did with all that stuff. He just, even though people, nobody believed it, he was still like, look, I did it. I was at a bad time in life. Just you was on drugs. People not themselves when they was on drugs. I mean, I'm not agreeing with nothing he did because that was some wild stuff. He proved once again, as I always say, this is what happens when niggas be too horny. You keep seeing that, and let's keep being an issue. To learn, people that's watching, learn that now. What happens when you too horny? But I say that Diddy just being quiet. Maybe he just trying to process it and take it all in because maybe he really thought he wasn't gonna ever get caught. What's your take on all this?
I plead the fifth.
You plead the fifth. Okay.
I plead the fifth.
He plead the fifth. Like I said, for me,
Yeah.
it's no point to keep going in on it only because it's been talked for now.
Yeah, it's deep.
Over a year. It's a lot going on. But again, if we extract what's going on, WWID, what would I do in this situation? So my logic in real life, as I said, and I tell people like, if the jig is up, just go ahead and tell on yourself. Just go ahead and own it, because when you own it, you're taking power over the situation. Because right now, in his case, he's powerless. But if you just own up to what you did and atone for your sins, there's gonna be people that don't believe you, but at least if you did something you weren't supposed to be doing, you could come back from it. Because and we actually discussed it with somebody weeks ago when I asked a tough question. I said, do y'all think Diddy can be redeemed? And I said, yes, because as long as you are on this earth, anybody can be redeemed. Anybody. Nobody, when people say, oh no, he went too far, he might not be able to be redeemable in your eyes, but in the eyes of God, if you're still alive, you can be redeemed. So, and most people don't want to hear that, but it is what it is. It doesn't mean I agree or condone what he did. No. But in this situation, if I was in Diddy's case, I would just go ahead and tell it. And then if I was Suge Knight and I had a friend like, hey, bro, block hot. You need to chill out. I've had friends, and I'm sure you didn't have people out here when the PPPs was hot, and I didn't have to let people know, like, hey, look, you hot on the block, like you telling on yourself. Chill out. Like you gotta slow it down. So what's your take on the situation where if you were in a Suge Knight's point of view and if you was in a Diddy's point of view, how would you handle this situation? Not
like
necessarily that, but just,
No, 100%. Like you said, sometimes when you are powerless, only way you can gain back power is when you take control. Only way you can take control is admitting or not, just like admitting or just coming to light of like, yo, this is what it is. Like I said from the first question, this is what it is. All right, now this is what it ain't. You know what I'm saying? Now how do we move? Where do we go now? This is what it is. This is what happened. What's next? No one can go left or right. But when you're powerless, there's so many different angles you can get hit from. You know what I'm saying? So to define your options, to define your chances, it's like you almost gotta to stick that needle in it and be like, all right, bet this is exactly what it is and what it ain't. This is what happened. Now let's choose a side. Where are we going?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
WWJD, what would Jesus do? So
Lord,
Jesus took on the sins of stuff you didn't do.
Yeah.
For us. So that's what he would do, because he did that. He took on, honestly, technically, he took on what Diddy did on the cross. As crazy as that sounds, but if you understand, you understand. But even if the ethically, morally correct thing to do is to just, we keep saying that I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you just own it. Because especially once you got caught, really, to be quite frank, I'm in a position in my life where my prayer is that I never have to have nobody tell on me about nothing I did. That I'll always be in a position where I tell my own business first. No one will ever be able to be like, he did this, and I gotta be like, yeah, I did that. Now, I never say never, but my goal is for that to never be the case. So, but again, like I said, you'll always get those warnings privately. Then once you're not listening to the private ones, or the ones where God speaks to you in his own unique ways, then he gonna send somebody like Nas, say, hey, I need to tell you something. You need to stop doing this. You know what I'm saying? And he might send Izzy to tell you, hey, stop doing this. Still don't listen. That's when the public shame comes. So I think that in this case, ethically, morally correct, I would Suge, I would tell. I guess he had to tell him publicly because they rival, so it ain't like he could send him a text. So I can't argue that. But
exactly.
Yeah, I think he did it the best way he knew how. But here's another message I want to extract from this. Sometimes the best advice comes from somebody you least expect.
Facts.
Nobody would expect Suge Knight to give great advice like that to Diddy of all people. So, Facts. Would you take advice from your ops
Probably not.
Yeah.
I'm saying you don't know what the intent is, and like with him, it's like that's a crazy scenario because you don't know what Suge Knight's intent is to Diddy, but it's kind of like it seems to be his intentions is pure.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah.
WSMD, what's your man doing in this situation? So we didn't win it. We didn't beat it with Dead Horse. I didn't tell you this time. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what it is. I will say, what else I want to say? I just want to reiterate, which just hit me as I said it to you a few minutes ago. Like you might get a word from somebody you least expect, and you should be able to be like, you know what? If it's right, it's right. And
Mm-hmm.
no, it might not be somebody you want to hear from, but like you have to really test the spirits and see who's saying it. But then at the same time, it's like, are they wrong? You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure somebody probably told Diddy, like, look, just own it and humanize yourself. And he might end up doing that. I don't know. All I'm gonna say is, as crazy as people don't want to hear it, anybody can be redeemed. And I am not a Diddy fan by any means, but I'm just gonna come up from a different approach when talking about the situation because everybody's saying the same thing. But I got this right here. Anybody can be redeemed. So, and that's what I'm gonna go with that. Anything else you want to add to that?
Not really. Repent. That's kind of all. That's all it is. Repentance.
All right. That's it. Yeah, so this was a good one. Anything you want to add or want to put before we go today?
Let's be great. Follow me on IG. Join the movement. Instagram is _ Nas Cooke, NASCOOKE. And let's be great. Let's prosper. Let's change the narrative.
All right. Now, this episode this week is going to be a little different. So it features my girl, Kendra King, who is a licensed professional, licensed therapist, and sex coach? I'm not sure. But long story short, it's been a while since I recorded this episode, but it drops this Thursday. And basically, this episode centers around what we talking about, people being too horny. But she also gives the preface in her with that if you have these fantasies and things, that you do it in a safe way. She's not necessarily saying she's an advocate for all of the kinky and freaky things that people like to do, but what she is saying is if you're gonna do it in a safe way, not in a way that will cause you to end up in some of the situations like some of the people that we hear, and also the dangers of we on YouTube, corn, and the dangers of masturbation regularly because of all of the issues that how it affects men later in life. So make sure y'all tune in for that one. She actually really funny, and it's a lot of moments where we kind of break the fourth wall. So make sure y'all tune into that. All right, y'all. So as always, PSA signing out. Keep your head up like your neck hurt. PSA signing out. Remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you. And remember, as always, I love us for real.